Thank you for joining Effortless Attraction. My name is Evelyn McAleer. I'm the author of A Life You Want, Effortless, and The Woman's Journey. I'm a life coach, business mentor, and inspirational speaker. And my greatest value is making a difference in people's lives. So I hope through these podcasts I can make a difference to your life.
This episode of Effortless Attraction podcast is proudly sponsored by Maria Young Academy of Holistic Health. Founded by Maria Young, MAYA is an accredited training academy dedicated to helping people develop skills, confidence and qualifications in holistic health and well-being. Maria and her team of experienced tutors support students who are looking to start a new career, expand their existing practice, or follow their passion for helping others. The Academy is based in County Derry. To learn more, visit mariayoungwellbeing.co.uk.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on another Effortless Attraction podcast. Well, today's guest has lived a life with many different chapters. And when I first came across this wonderful lady, I saw her being interviewed in television. So I am delighted to welcome Lynda Duffy to the Effortless Attraction podcast. Lynda first came into the public eye when she was crowned Miss Ireland back in 2002 and went on to represent Ireland in Miss World. Following her modelling career, she worked in international recruitment across the UAE and Saudi Arabia, recruiting for major development projects. But behind the success was a very personal battle. Lynda has spoken openly about living with an eating disorder for more than 2 decades, and after experiencing the life-changing impact of rapid transformational therapy herself, she retrained as a rapid transformational therapist and clinical hypnotherapist. So today, she is helping people create lasting changes through supporting her clients with anxiety, overthinking, low self-esteem, people-pleasing, relationships, family challenges, depression, and so much more. Her own journey has transformed her relationship with food, her body, her self-worth, and that lived experience now lies at the heart of the work that she does with others. So, Lynda, I am absolutely delighted to welcome you to Effortless Attraction podcast.
Thanks for having me on. Happy to be here.
Well, there's a whole lot. I love people with a colourful life, something that you can just get your teeth into. And I have heard of RTT. Marisa Peer is the founder of all of that. And I'll be interested to find out a wee bit of information about that, Lynda. Now, I know you have spoken publicly as well about your eating disorder. And I guess when something happens, you reach out, you need help. To the outside world, your life was very successful. Here's this girl that's Miss Ireland. She's beautiful, fabulous figure. She's it all going for her. She's out in UAE and at this recruitment agency, but all wasn't well.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of us are very good at, living a life that maybe is from the outside looks really good, maybe healthy and successful, and on the inside it might be telling a different story. So, yeah, I mean, I suppose for the most part, my life was good. I had a really good career. I was enjoying life. I had really good experiences, good opportunities. But I think the inner story and the inner journey was something completely different and something that I suppose for the most part, I thought I could handle it myself. And I never really wanted to kind of just share that because I suppose for a few reasons. One, I just kind of thought I could manage it myself. Two, I suppose I didn't. I thought a lot of it was down to willpower, that I just wasn't strong enough to kind of break up myself. And I know a lot of people experience this in different aspects of their life, where we'll start on Monday with, fresh start, new week. This is the week I'll change everything in my life. And you get into a vicious loop of it not being that way. And I think the other reason was I genuinely didn't want, I suppose, because I'd come from a modeling background and it was always part-time. It was never a full-time career for me. I didn't want to be like, oh, another girl with an eating disorder, like, so what? So I just didn't. I was kind of thought, what's the point in saying anything, because I didn't want anyone thinking I was looking for attention. So, yeah, it's a journey that a lot of people experience, where they're not, they're living a life maybe that isn't true to how they're actually feeling and what they're experiencing.
Mm. Uh, did this begin for you during the modeling or after? Or-
Both. So I had it before I started, I had it during it, and I had it afterwards. So
Mhm.
I think the impact of the modeling is obviously it's an industry that's very much focused on how you look. So it's not going to it's definitely going to enhance your kind of behaviors in an environment where, not necessarily you're expected to be skinny, particularly not in Ireland so much. But from a kind of worldwide aspect of when you think of a model, you think of someone 5'10" and size zero,
Yeah, yeah, of
and I'm
course.
neither of that. So I think there was a little bit of pressure that I would have put on myself to look a certain way because at the time I kind of just thought that being skinny meant everything in my life was going to be good.
Hmm.
And obviously that's not the case.
I have a group of women that I work with, and everyone is different clothes size.
Mm,
And whoever's the size, maybe 18, thinking when I get to 16. And
mm,
then I go to the lady that's on the group, the size 16. I says, what are you aiming for? Well, when I get to size 14, then I'll go to the lady who's 14 and everybody's looking less with
mm,
weight.
mm,
Is it a thing that, and you work with clients and all, and I'm quite sure that your life isn't consumed with this either. But as far as life has it, and with social media now, are we still caught up in this having to look a certain way and what we're eating? Because it seems to be stronger than ever. And one on social media, if you tap and look at one video, there'll be a lot more coming up. Do this exercise, eat this food, do
mm.
all
Yeah,
these things.
I think that, like I definitely think social media has had a huge impact on how we feel about ourselves and what a successful life looks like, what a good body looks like, being a good parent looks like, what look a good business looks like, what a good family looks like, all of this. I think as much and all as we have the self-awareness to know that like, people show us what they want us to see or they tell us what we want to hear, but it still has, if we keep consuming it, at some point it seeps in that
Yeah,
that is the perfect figure because maybe they get all the likes and all the comments and they have loads of followers. They have the perfect family because they're going on nice holidays and everybody looks really happy and dressed well and things like that. They have the successful business because they keep saying, "Oh no, I'm booked out, or I've only one space left," or things like that. And a lot of the time the narrative is actually false.
yeah,
Because at the end of the day, it's a lot of social media it's a sales tool. You know, um, I think it's very easy for us to fall into that trap of thinking that what I see is reality. And I think especially for younger people that I work with, kind of teenager and kind of early 20s, it plays such a big part in how it influences, how they feel about themselves and their body and their relationships and what they should be doing kind of like going forward. And I think it's really, really unhealthy. Um, but I also understand there's so much pressure, particularly still on women to look a
yeah.
certain way because if you don't look a certain way, then nobody will envy you, or you won't get enough attention from maybe the opposite sex, or nobody will admire you, or equally, you won't feel good in yourself. So I'll work
That's
with a lot of people who, they know maybe they're not, let's call it fat, or they know they're not, obese, or they know they're not, um, clinically obese or whatever it might be, but they still don't, I don't feel good enough, or I'm not where I want to be. But as you said there, it's like when I'm a 12, I want to be 10. When I'm a 10, I want to be 8. When I'm 8, I want to be 6, and I'll be happy when I'm 4. But
yeah,
where does it end? You're chasing something. You're chasing happiness from your body.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's it, and it's a hard thing to kind of change because we all know that when we lose weight, everyone say, "You look great. You look fantastic. You look so healthy." Our mind here is brilliant. Let's do more of it.
Hmm. I had an aunt just passed away, and two things she used to always say when you'd meet her. You're badly failed or you're well mended. So one meant you've lost weight if you're badly failed, and you're well mended, you put on weight.
Right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it just shows that no matter what you do, we can't win. Right? You're too skinny. You get commented on that. You put on weight. You're commented on that. So no matter, there's no perfect size.
Hmm. When we go to the beach here and watch people, and I think from different nationalities, and watching the Spanish women, and I see them on that beach, and they give off this aura of freedom. I mean, it doesn't matter what size they are. A lot of them actually are what I would class as a nice size for them, but it
Mm,
doesn't matter what any size they have. This confidence that just
mm,
exudes, or this freedom, and they're perfectly
mm,
fine going topless. A lot of them just
mm,
freedom. So
mm.
again, perhaps it's the environment too, Linda, that we're brought up in.
100%. I would experience that when I lived like in the Middle East. When you have good weather, it's so normal to be in swimwear, bikinis, and let's say call it have your body exposed to a degree. While somewhere like Ireland, I mean, what we get if we're lucky, maybe a week of sunny weather where we can't be in a swimsuit or bikini. So exactly that. It's your environment that you're used to. So if you're used to being in a bikini, at some point you're going to get comfortable with it because you're doing it all the time. And
Yeah,
I would have noticed that when I moved away, that like for the first while I was so paranoid about how I looked in bikini, and you're beside lots of people who have the perfect bodies, or so I thought. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you are, and you start to care less about how I actually look, and it's just part of normal wear over there. So it's
yeah,
the same in European countries where they're just so used to it.
yeah.
And I think if you're from, countries like Ireland or colder countries where we don't experience the seasons, um, we can get very paranoid or feel very kind of like my body is on show because I'm not used to it. So, and I think
God.
the more you're used to it, it's like confidence. The more you do something, the better you get at it, and the more confident you feel with it.
And
So
that's
that's
it.
why they feel more confident.
And getting used to the white skin because definitely in Ireland before you put on the bikini or the shorts, the false tan has to go on.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
it's the funniest thing. When we
yeah,
moved to Spain, I said, that's it. I'm embracing my whiteness. And I thought,
mm,
everybody else is
yeah,
brown, I'll be white.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Linda, moving on then, you'd gone out UAE, you were working in, and then you give up that career, you come back to Ireland. And is this where your transformation all took place? Take us through that journey.
Yeah, so it was actually so I was in Dubai for 8.5 years, and then I moved to Saudi Arabia for 2 years. And while I was in Saudi, that's where I say I had my really low where my life just seems like an awful mess, and I didn't really know how to get myself out of it. And it was through that phase I kind of I came across Rapid Transformational Therapy. I'd started doing a little bit of self-development work like most people do when they're in my situation. And it was just by chance somebody recommended it. So I thought at that point, "Do you know what, I'll look into it, I'll give it a go. I've tried everything else, or I thought I'd tried everything else. So let's see where this takes me." And I've done a little bit of my own due diligence, kind of done a little bit of research on it. And I spoke to one or two therapists just to kind of see what was entailed in it fully. And then I kind of chose a therapist that I felt very comfortable with. And um, throughout that journey, um, I stopped binging. Um, very quickly. And not only did I stop binging, I really kind of understood why I was doing it in the first place, because I genuinely did think it was just I'm just obsessed with my weight and how I look, and it was down to willpower, or I just done it when I wasn't happy. Um, but obviously, there's a deeper picture. There's a deeper reason why we have those habits, primarily linked to our own experiences and our own self beliefs and our own coping strategies. So not only did it change, the actual habit, it really helped me understand me, why I think the way I think, why I behave the way I behave, why I act the way I act. And that for me was just, I'd never had that before, you
Mm.
know. And for me, it was just, it had such a profound impact on so many other areas of my life that I just kind of made a decision that I want to do this. Now, I always had an interest in people. I always had an interest in kind of psychology and the way people think and act, but never to the point that I was willing to maybe to go back and study it because I didn't have a strong enough, probably didn't have evidence of something enough to kind of like, this works, this is what I like, I'm going to do this. Um, so within probably 2 months of me doing the program myself, I signed up and I started training as a therapist and completed that within the year, and then made the decision then that do I suppose like most people do when they work in maybe a full-time corporate environment and then want to move into their own business. I kind of do I don't I moment, and I was like, no, if I don't do it now, I know I'll get too scared and I won't do it again. So yeah, I came back to Ireland, and within a couple of months I'd set up therapy with Lynda, and that's what I've been doing since.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Whenever you're directed, as you said, someone said to you, but I always believe they say when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So be it, or different things cross our paths because as you deal with it's the subconscious.
Mm,
So there's something, that I think, transmitting to our thoughts, to our words, to our actions. And I do believe the right people come along at the right time.
mm,
Out of the blue, and totally, you're like, what is this even all about? I have no idea. To
mm,
redirect you. And when you look back on all of the things that have happened, or it's like, but this was all meant to take place for me to be here.
mm. Yeah, I think it's funny. People have always have like different, which is healthy. We all have different perspectives on it. So I think, yeah, I think timing has an impact on some things in our life. But I think probably the bigger impact is what do we learn from the experiences, particularly around things that aren't nice. You know, things that we experience that aren't like grief or things like that, where or heartbreak or things that are hard for to understand. Well, why does timing matter in that? You know, I didn't want it to happen, so why did it happen? So I think it's important to kind of understand, well, what do we learn from it? Like what is it giving us that maybe when we're so knee deep in grief or heartbreak that we can't see that there's nothing that we can see that there's a positive that comes
Mm-hmm.
from this.
Mm-hmm.
So while timing, yeah, absolutely is important, I think it's good to kind of also sit back and well, what was it trying to teach me? What do I need to learn from this? Or what can I do better that maybe I wouldn't have experienced if I hadn't gone through that experience?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's funny how life works out. It's and I think a lot of us will say I think maybe some of us have a lot of a picture of life that maybe we thought it would go a certain way and it didn't,
Gosh.
you know.
Is that not when we're always looking to control it ourselves? I have to do this, and this has to add up for this to work out. And I know people that that's how their life goes, and something comes along, a family I know, and then they had their first child, and the dad was wanting to take it out for sport, for different thing, and the child was born with Down syndrome, which completely floored the father because it's not that it was a rejection of the child, but it was, I wasn't prepared for this. This
Mm,
isn't how it was meant to work out. And their
yeah,
emotional system
didn't know how to
just,
react to
it
it.
was like, what has just happened to this person? It took them a long time because this is not the way that the life was meant to be.
Yeah, and exactly as it's the word you shared there, like control. When we have a sense of control, it gives us a sense of safety. You know,
Mm,
we know what to expect. I think that's why, a lot of people experience anxiety. You know, we're trying to predict what's going to happen, what's coming in the future, so we can be prepared for it or we can feel safe when it happens. Um, and equally, we have a picture of life, through storybooks when we're younger or through what our parents did or what society tells us to. You get married, have kids, build a house by your 30s or mid 30s, and that's the journey we're all meant to be on. So if that doesn't happen, it's very easy for you to think, well, I haven't got that at 30 or 35, or God forbid, 40. And that comes back to there must be something wrong with me because why
yeah,
why am I not experiencing that and everybody else is? So I think society and culture has a lot to play with,
yeah,
what we think life should look like and what we should be achieving by certain, timelines. And if we don't
correct.
hit those, then we feel like we're failing or there's something wrong with us or we're being left behind. Or worst case scenario, it's like, well, what if I never maybe meet somebody that's going to be a really lonely life? And it can be very scary for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So you talk about in your RTT subconscious. So would you explain just in layman term what you
Mhm.
mean by subconscious?
Yeah. So we have two minds, a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is what we operate in terms of logic and willpower. Our subconscious mind is the mind that's actually in control. So it's basically a video recorder of our life from, let's say, today backwards. So it holds all of our experiences, all of our self beliefs, all of our habits, all of our triggers, our emotional overload. Um, Conscious mind operates 5% of the time. Subconscious mind operates 95% of the time. We typically try and use the conscious mind to operate and change things in our lives when it's actually the subconscious mind, which is the driving force behind everything. And that's why a lot of people, say, I want to give up smoking or I want to change my habits, I want to lose weight. But your conscious mind is telling you a different story to your subconscious mind. So it's really hard to change when you're basically using the wrong mind to try to make changes. So it's like going into um, maybe a car garage and you have a flat tire, but the mechanic changes the engine. You'll have a really good engine, but you still won't be able to move. Why? Because you're not changing the part of the car that needs to be changed.
Mm-hmm.
So it very much is a case of um, it's like a software.
Yeah.
You're not changing the right software. You're going to operate on a slow level. You're going to lose memory. You're going to, you know, battery's going to go down really quickly. Things like that. So I think again, I didn't know about subconscious mind 5 years ago. Hadn't a clue what it meant. Didn't know it even existed. Um, And I think when you understand how it works and what it means and what the power that it has, when you
Yeah.
learn how to use it correctly, it can have a real, you can really change, you can have life-changing experiences. And unfortunately, they don't teach these things in school. So,
I know, isn't it? Once you get to learn things, you think, why do they not teach? Even a helpful bit of advice at school was do what you're happiest doing. Do what brings you joy. And if you don't know at this stage,
yeah,
I had written about that 95% and 5%, and Joe Dispenza,
mm,
where's quantum physics, talks about this because as you say, you plant the thought into the conscious mind of doing something, but we're already programmed. They say by the age of 35, we're already programmed. And actually, our bodies are nearly like the second brain goes into automatic pilot most
mm,
days of the week, and we react the same way as we've always done and respond. And the subconscious, they say, it doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. So if
correct.
you are working
Yeah.
with a client, to help them, do you get them to go into, is it hypnosis that you work with there?
Yeah, yeah, we use hypnotherapy to access the subconscious mind to figure out, you know, exactly as you said, everything we do pretty much is on autopilot. We get out of bed the same way, we shower the same way, we make our tea the same way, we react the same way, we drive to work the same way. We do everything pretty much the same way because it's how we're programmed and it's what we know. So when during hypnotherapy, it allows you to access your subconscious mind to understand again, why do you behave the way you behave? Why do you have anxiety? Why do you have low mood? Why do you have a challenging relation with food? Why do you not trust people? Lots of different reasons. You have to understand at the core, where does that come from first? You do that through hypnotherapy. But understanding is one part. The bigger part is, well, how do I change? How do I feel more at ease? How do I find happiness? You'd be surprised the amount of people that would ask them, well, what makes you happy? They can't answer it. They can't answer it because they're not really sure anymore what makes them happy. People who want to have success, they don't really know what success is. They just kind of gauge it on what they see from other people. Or they don't even know why they want it. They want it because they think it'll make them feel important and significant.
Yeah,
So when you
yeah,
work with hypnotherapy, what you're doing is you're retraining your mind to think so it can act differently. Because our thoughts and our feelings and actions are all linked. Because if you're having the same thoughts, you can't be expecting different results. So you have to input new thoughts so you can have different results, different behaviors, different actions. And the only way the mind learns is through repetition. And that's why a lot of people will, hands up, myself included, at some points, where like, I'll be doing my affirmations for a week, but I still feel the same. Okay, but you might have 30 years of thinking negatively. It doesn't happen in one week. It's the repetition that you have to keep doing, the consistency, the discipline. And that's what we all find really hard because we live in a world where we want
yeah.
everything now. I don't want to do affirmations for a month. I don't want to go to the gym 3 times a week for a month. I don't want to eat healthy for, a month. But we have to if you want changes. And that can be really hard.
Yes, how much do you want it? The change is the difficult part.
Mm,
I say to people, it's like if you're going on an airplane or coming in an airplane coming down through the clouds, there's that bit of the turbulence where
mm,
everything's getting moved and shifted about, and you have to go through that. Otherwise, you stay in the same, and perhaps waiting on somebody else to change, something else to change for my
mm.
life to be better. And that's a hard life. When people say life is hard, that's a hard life because I don't have the commitment or the determination to make the changes myself. And
Yeah.
life becomes easier that way.
Yeah. And I think you made a really good point there. Like so many people want other people to change. If they just change their habits, if they just change their behavior, if they could just be more calm, if they could just be more loving, if they could just do more around the house. Okay, but look how hard it is for you to change and you're expecting someone else to change. And it's not our responsibility to change other people, it's our responsibility to change ourselves and how we respond to things. And that can be hard to hear because it's easier to try and get someone else to change than to change us.
Oh, absolutely. That is, if even remember back, when you're doing work yourself, and gosh, when I was go way back and having to become consciously aware of thoughts. Because you think, I'm not thinking. But we have thousands of thoughts every day, and the same, perhaps repetitive ones as the day
Yeah,
before. And then
yeah.
when you stop, oh geez, I just had a negative thought, and then you're angry at yourself and say, for God's sake, Evelyn, and oh, there's another one. There's another one.
Mm. And it's so easy for us to have negative thoughts, and yes, there's a really high percentage of them that are repetitive and a higher percentage of them that are negative. And I think sometimes where we're really hard on ourselves because we think nobody else is having these thoughts, or like everyone else is getting on with their day and they look happy and they seem happy and they're doing, you know, going to their jobs and going home and doing all these things, that we think that nobody else has the same negative inner critic or the negative chatter that we have, when in reality pretty much a lot of us have the same thoughts that we experience together. It's just, we just don't really go around telling each other every day, did you think about this, or did you feel sad about this, or do you feel lonely? We don't really do that. But it's also important to know that just because you have a thought, it doesn't mean it's real. And I think that's where a lot of mindset work, really kind of plays a role in terms of how do we change, not necessarily having a negative thought, but how do I manage it? How do I deal with it? Am I
Mhm.
letting it absorb it into my body and my mind, or am I choosing to hear it but not believe it?
Yeah,
And I think once you get into the habit of doing that, your experiences will be different.
absolutely. And listen, I know of people that are listening to this, if it's the first time hearing it, or you're thinking a load of BS and think, come and look at my life. Come and see the life that I have and see, and then tell me to think positive. Because there's another one that our brain will always search for evidence to prove us right. And you
Mm,
would be 100% justified, if
mm,
your child was sick, you had no money, and you feel, well, how would I feel positive in this here?
mm.
It's
Yeah,
not possible. And we convince ourselves of that also.
yeah,
So it's I know it can sound patronizing to people when they look
yeah.
and see my circumstances are not good, but I guarantee if you went back in your life or back in my life, and I always say,
Mm,
people will say to me now, it's well for you, Evelyn. And I say, hold on. No one
mm,
was saying it's well for you, Evelyn, when you had 3 kids to look at, when you were out self-employed, when you were
mm,
working your butt off to
mm,
achieve a life that you wanted.
mm.
Nobody said then it's all right for you. So we've all come from something.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember as well that, like, exactly as you said, somebody with no money, or somebody that's lost a child, or somebody that is unemployed and can't find a job, it's easy to say, like, try and be more positive, because we don't want to hear that in those situations because we can't see a positive. But I think it's, maybe important to just focus on kind of short term, not focus on long term positivity, just focus on, well, what can I do today that's going to make me feel better? What can I do this week that's going to maybe, help me find a job or make more money or try and cope with my loss, things like that. So if you just kind of focus on, the 24 hours that you have, because that is really all we have, just being present, because we're always future pacing. What do I need to do next week? What do I need to do next month? What do I need to have by next year? It's all future, future, future. But
Yeah,
I don't know what's going to happen in half an hour's time. I'll have an idea from predictability, but all I can control is right now. So what
yeah,
can I do in this moment that's going to make me feel a little bit better? Not necessarily even positive, but what's going to just make me feel a little bit better right now?
yeah. Do you think a lot of our minds, and what they will, doesn't matter if we've done all this work or not, it happens,
Mm,
where it races into the future because we're always wanting to keep ourselves safe.
mm. Well, our mind is designed to keep us safe, right? So a lot of the time, even like if you think about, I hear it a lot, and I would have said it myself, in that you're trying to change a habit, you know. So for example, something happens and like a lot of people will say, I just can't stop binging or whatever. Well, your mind has learned that it's a comfort. It keeps you safe and it makes you happy. Same way, I've had a bad day, I'm going to the pub and I'm gonna, start drinking. Why? Because your mind has learned that you get relief, you get to escape reality. So maybe something's going wrong in my marriage. What do I? Maybe I'll go out and buy loads of nice clothes and handbags or whatever. Why? Because you've learned that you get like this kind of instant kind of like gratification, but it might be gone tomorrow. So our mind is all, and our mind hears that, experiences it, and it automatically says, okay, Linda feels more comfort and safe when she eats. Mary down the roads feels, better when she has, a glass of wine. Tom down the roads feel better when he goes out and, I don't know, does whatever he does in his life to make himself feel better. But our mind takes it as, this is me saying what safety is and comfort is. So it'll
Yeah,
keep bringing me back there, even if my conscious mind, this is a good example actually, my conscious mind says, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be binging. I don't want to be starving myself. I don't want to be smoking all the time. I don't want to be waking up with hangovers every weekend. That's the conscious mind, but your subconscious mind is telling you, but hey, Lynda, you love the cake. Hey, you love the smoking. You love the drinking because you don't have to think about reality. And that's why there's the kind of
Yeah.
the barrier between
And you
how do I
see,
change versus what's my programming.
that's right. And you could see that someone that has gone to the gym and really healthy lifestyle drop dead. You say, see?
Mm. Oh, well,
And the
yeah,
brain
it's true. And it's like people who get, like, let's say, lung cancer or throat cancer and they never smoked a day in their life. But we'll always find a narrative a lot of the time that maybe suits us or suits our lives or
that's
certain situations. So I think it's important to remember that we're all unique individuals as well, and we've all experienced different things in
yeah.
life, whether that's our parents or our home life or careers or relationship, things like that.
Hmm.
That we all have had a different experience personally, but yet we all collectively maybe have a lot of the same experiences in terms of how it made us feel about ourselves and
Yeah.
our beliefs.
Yeah. Would you agree, or perhaps not, with people that I've been speaking with and doing work with over the years, that it's not, again, we know it's not the action if you go deeper. Everyone is carrying a belief that they're not good enough. Even the person that we'd see as the CEO, this is personally speaking, that the end goal for us all is to find a
Mm.
peace. And then if we have a peace within us, we have a peace with everything that's in our life. We can easily manage, I think, things that come along.
Yeah, I think in theory, I 100% agree. I think there's so many variables though that impact our peace, and I suppose it comes down to, again, it's your conditioning. So let's say somebody who struggles with boundaries, they create the boundaries, but they don't enforce them. So they'll struggle with, well, I'm trying to find peace, but it's not happening because they don't have the power to enforce the boundary, even though they're vocalizing the boundary. Um, I think I think so much of it comes down to when, like, there is genuinely a lot of people that don't feel good enough. There's times I don't
Mm,
feel good enough still. And I've done a lot of work myself. But I also understand it's normal and it's human. And there's such certain situations I won't feel good enough. And then there's other situations I will. A lot of people, I think, in definitely in kind of like since social media generation, there's so many people craving validation externally.
mm,
They want the attention, they want the significance, they want to be seen as important, they want to be seen as powerful, they want to be seen as successful, but it's all external. I
yeah,
need people to know I'm doing well. I need people to know I'm important. I need to be seen at these parties. I need to be seen with the Range Rover. I need to be seen with the big house. I need to be seen flying business class. I need to be seen doing all those things. And all of it really comes down to not feeling good enough, because if you felt good enough, you wouldn't feel a need to show. And that's why you see a lot of celebrities, the actors, the musicians, you know, world class, high class models, things like that. They think, if I just get this now, I'll finally be important. I'll finally be good enough.
yeah,
And so many of them turn to addictions because it's not about the thing they've got, because internally they're not working on what they need to fulfill inside. I need to feel good enough despite of what I have. And until you kind of work on that, you'll always be looking for something else.
yeah.
And that's a hard thing to do because we live in a world where we're constantly shown.
Yes, the when then scenario.
Yeah.
When then,
When I have this, when I get this, when I'm doing this, when I'm making this, when I have that relationship,
then I'll
then
feel
then
this
everything will be
certain
perfect.
way
Then
that,
I'll be fine. Yeah.
yeah,
But then you'll see
whatever
somebody that does
fine
something
is.
better, and then be like, oh no, now I need to get that.
I know. The goalposts keep moving.
Yeah.
So, Linda, for someone, listening to this, and I know a lot of people that they do have rituals or tools or things that they do most days. But for someone perhaps that's feeling overwhelmed, anxiety, depression, or
Mm,
thinking,
mm,
but how do I get started in this? Are there any wee tips that you could offer and say, listen, start your morning off like this, do something,
mm,
blah, blah, blah.
I think the first thing is just to start noticing patterns. That's a big thing for people. Just having the self-awareness in the first place, because a lot of people don't have self-awareness. So if you feel like I'm feeling down, but it feels like I'm feeling down a lot of the time. Okay, well, write it down on a piece of paper. It doesn't necessarily have to be journaling. Just write it down. When did I start feeling sad? What were my thoughts? What was going on around me? Who was I around? So separate it and kind of see maybe career, family, friends, loved ones. You know, was I outside that day? Did I get any fresh air? Did I eat well? Was I sleeping good the night before? Was I doing a bit of exercise? Was I hydrating myself? So start with your basics first. Because if you're standing at the doors, you're not talking to anybody, you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, you're not hydrating yourself, you're not going to feel good. So look at what's impacting you first, because it's very easy to go to, oh, just get outside now and just start journaling, just start doing meditation, just start doing your mindfulness, doing your gratitude list and all the rest. But again, like, but you don't know what you're trying to fix first. So kind of try and understand your patterns. Once you understand your patterns, you might realize, actually, do you know what? I always feel really down after speaking to, you know, Tommy. I always feel down after speaking to Lynda. Maybe I feel really inferior and that's not good for me. I come back feeling maybe like a failure or not good enough. Well, that means maybe you need to cut back spending time with that person. Maybe I don't feel good after, you know, I'm working really long hours. Okay, well then you have to find a little bit of discipline, a little bit of structure, good boundaries in terms of when do you shut down your laptop. We all live in a world now where it's like you're expected to be on call 24/7. So it's knowing kind of your patterns, what's good for me and not and what's not good for me. Make a list. This is one thing I tell all of my clients. Make a list of the things you can control and what you can't. What can you physically control and mentally control? Start with that. Everything else you can't. So just let it go or try and let it go because you've no influence over it. You can't change it. So if you start with those things, at least it'll get you on some kind of a journey that you can move forward in terms of having little changes. Because I think as well, a lot of the time it's taking the focus away from like we want to feel better instantly, but sometimes that's just not possible. If you're really suffering from like low mood and depression, it's not just a case of, hey, just start thinking positive, get outside and get some fresh air and exercise and you'll be fine. We're past all that. It's not just fine. There's something deeper. So yes, I would say try and get out of bed in the morning. I know sometimes if I wake up, a lot of people wake up with morning anxiety. I get that sometimes. And what I've learned is that if I stay in bed, it gets much worse. When I get up and just kind of make a cup of tea, brush my teeth, do something, my mind is automatically distracted from what I'm worrying about. So it makes me feel a little bit better. I know if I go outside and have a walk,
Yeah.
I'll feel better. Doesn't mean to say all my problems are going to go away, but I'll feel better. When I don't eat well, I don't feel good. When I'm around certain people that don't make me feel energized or good about myself, I come home feeling pretty crap. So I'm very mindful of who and what gets my energy anymore because that's important for my peace. And
Yeah,
sometimes that comes with
of
hard
course.
decisions and not everybody's going to understand them.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And I think that's a big part of the healing journey. We realize what's not good for us, whether that's people or environments. And sometimes we have to step away from those people or those environments. And that comes with conversations that we don't like, but that's part of
Yeah,
growth.
that's very true. Whenever, if someone decides to start doing work on themselves, not everybody, as you say, grows at the same pace, so friendships can
Yeah. And
change,
not everybody understands it
relationships.
or equally, they don't care
Mm,
either. And that's okay. We're all different.
yeah. And if you need help with that, because it's difficult doing it on your own, you can find Lynda on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Her pages on Facebook and Instagram are it's Therapy with Lynda, and that's Lynda. And I'll put all the details in the description below. And her website is lindaduffy.ie. But all will be in the description of this podcast, whatever platform that you're listening on. Lynda, thank you so much for your time today. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. If you're listening on Spotify, I always like to get a wee bit of feedback, what you thought of today's show and if it made a difference to your day. So, Lynda, thank you kindly for your time.
Thank you for having me.